The lore within Silent Hill can be described as intricate, extensive, complicated, completely confusing, and really freaking interesting. Each game weaves together psychological and supernatural elements through its characters, adding to the history and background of Silent Hill throughout the series. If you've been looking for a video with all of the answers, an in-depth look at the lore within Silent Hill, then you've stumbled upon the wrong video. This is a TLDR version of events which will tell you just enough to let you know what's going on without ripping away hours of your life like it did to me while researching for this video. Quick note before I start, if you're looking for really good lore videos, I linked a series that I found to be awesome down below. It runs about 6 hours long though, so you know, if you have the time. Also, don't forget we have timestamps within this video if there's anything you want to skip due to spoilers. We start our journey with Silent Hill Origins, which is technically the 5th game in the series, but chronologically the 1st. Everything bad that happens throughout the entire series can be blamed on a satanic cult named the Order. The Order's purpose was to find a way to bring to life or birth a big baddie daddy demon boy, which they believe, I do not believe, they believe will bring salvation through destruction and rebirth. Basically, they're all fucked in the head. What's cool about these games that I think sets them apart from other stories that use the same genre, and by genre I mean deranged evil lunatics trying to summon demons, is that although they are the root cause of all the crazy, they essentially don't really matter. They don't need to be present for more bad things to happen because Silent Hill itself is its own entity that has the potential to have bunch of fucked up shit happen there. The town itself evolved into something that could tap into the minds of individuals, bringing their innermost fears, desires, and guilt to life. A good example of this is of course Silent Hill 2, the most beloved game in the series, but we'll get to that one later. Origins brings us the protagonist Travis Grady, a truck driver who's not very good at minding his own business. He goes through a series of unfortunate events that lead him into Silent Hill, meeting a girl that only appears to him in his rearview mirror. This would have been a great point for old Travis boy to hop back in his truck, peel out, never to be seen again, but instead he decides to follow the girl into the town, which leads him into a burning building within Silent Hill. He literally just left this truck in the middle of the road, like hearing screams from within the house and failing to mind his own damn business once again, he runs in to find a crispy chicken McNugget laying on the floor surrounded by what I assume are satanic markings. Without thinking twice, he saves the burnt nugget. Yes, that burnt nugget turns out to be the little girl that led him there, whose name is Alessa, something like that. The cult within the town was convinced that she was to be the one who birthed the demon man, so they started performing a ritual that Travis unknowingly interrupted when he pulled her out of the burning house. Now the cult members are angry and steal the girl back, hiding her in a basement of a hospital where she's being kept alive by Lisa, the nurse, a character that we'll see later in Silent Hill 1 who's kind of irrelevant. I don't really. She's only involved because she's addicted to a drug that the hospital director, Michael, feeds her. He's also, I think, in the cult, maybe? She's basically being held captive because crack. Well, it turns out that Travis has the ability to travel to the underworld or yucky version of Silent Hill through the mirrors, a power that his mother also seemed to suffer from. I say suffer because who wants to be able to travel to hell on a whim? Literally no one. Matter of fact, his own mother tried to kill him and herself because the mirror demons told her to. And she appears in the game as one of the bosses that you have to fight. It's pretty freaking brutal, man. Anyway, Alessa has supernatural powers. Those supernatural powers are imprisoned by the Florist, an item of unknown origins. Maybe the aliens brought it by. Who knows? The Florist was used to imprison Alessa's supernatural powers by none other than her evil cult mother, Delilah. Hey there, Delilah. The Florist was also broken up into different pieces and hidden throughout the town, but since Travis was there, he starts finding all the pieces while also fighting his own demons in the underworld, traveling through the mirrors. The manifestation of whatever haunts the individual person within Silent Hill is a reoccurring theme throughout the series, as we'll come to find out, which is why we see him fighting his dead mother. Oh my god, He finds all the pieces, gets them back to Alessa, which gives her her powers back, but also breaks open the gates between realities, the fog world and the Yaka world. This is why Silent Hill becomes what it is throughout the rest of the games, a hellish nightmare with supernatural powers often reflecting the main character's mental state. Well, that and also because it was on a sacred Indian burial ground, which you don't mess with, by the way, if you didn't know. So it had like supernatural oomph to it naturally. Our boy, being absolutely relentless, sets out to find Alessa, her actual body, the crispy McNugget, not the supernatural version of her, and sees the cult performing yet another frickin' ritual. They catch him this time, unfortunately, and unleash a demon on him. He defeats it and uses the Florist to somehow, someway, for some reason, split Alessa's soul into two. The game ends with our boy making it out alive. Woohoo! Well, sometimes, only if you get the good ending. But anyway, the girl is seen in the rearview mirror holding a baby, which is her other soul half. It doesn't make any sense to me either. This directly leads us into the events of Silent Hill 1. Yahoo! Harry Mason is the main big boy in this game who happens to be traveling to Silent Hill with his 7-year-old daughter named Cheryl. While traveling through Silent Hill, Harry swerves and crashes because there is a creepy girl in the middle of the road. After the crash, Harry looks over at his daughter that had not been there. He didn't look over at her. She disappeared. I don't know why I said he looked over at her. He looked over at the seat, which had been empty because ejectocito cuz his daughter had disappeared. The search for her begins. The town is full of monsters, and of course, because why not, Harry goes full-blown Rambo on them as he makes his way through the town in search of his daughter. This is where he encounters Delilah. Hey there, Delilah. Which, if you remember, is the crazy cult mother of the crispy chicken McNugget. She gives Harry the florist, confusing the fuck out of him and us, and then runs off into the sunset because she can. Harry makes his way through the town, creepy hospitals, creepy schools, creepy people, the whole 9 yards, when eventually he understands the mystery. The mystery unfolds. Turns out Cheryl isn't Harry's biological daughter, just a baby he had found on the side of the road in Silent Hill years ago. If you have connected the dots, the baby is the second half of Alyssa's soul. Oh boy, we're getting into it now. This game, like the others, has a ton of endings, but the one we're gonna follow for the purpose of this video is the one that makes the most sense. Harry defeats the demon man at the end and finds a baby, leaving Silent Hill and raising the child. Why choose this ending, you might ask? Well, because there's a direct continuation to this story with the next game that we're going to be talking about. It literally doesn't make sense if you get any of the other endings. Certainly not the one where you get abducted by aliens. I don't even know how to include that in here with making it make sense. Skipping the events of Silent Hill 2 for now, I'm just gonna outright spoil Silent Hill 3 right away. Yahoo! The protagonist of this game is named Heather, which is actually named Cheryl, which is actually Alyssa 2.0. Alyssa's second soul half that Harry takes. Did we find this out because you eventually find your dad, Harry Mason, gutted in his living room? And who killed him? None other than crazy cult member Claudia. Who's Claudia, you may ask? I don't know. The game takes you through the events of Heather finding out who she really is, where she comes from, etc., etc. Here we meet Douglas, a private investigator who got roped into all of this, and then some other members of the cult sprinkled in here and there, spewing their crazy nonsense about birthing the god into the world that will destroy everything as we know it. At one point, Heather does become impregnated, but drinks this like poison that makes her burp out the fetus. It burps out this fetus that looks like a fucking croissant, a bloody croissant, and then this crazy lady Claudia yomps it straight off the ground. It's so fucking gross. I guess the 5-second rule doesn't apply in this case. I don't know, it got weird, man. She eats the nasty croissant, making her turn into the final boss, which Heather defeats, and it just leads us into multiple endings once again. If you beat the game once, Heather approaches Douglas with a knife, being a creepy hoe, but just joking. It's just a joke. She doesn't actually hurt him in that one. In the other ending, she kills the fuck out of him, succumbing to the crazy and, I don't know, leading us to death and destruction, I guess. There's also a joke alien ending, which, why not at this point? Okay, let's get to the star of the show, Silent Hill 2. Yahoo! Receiving a letter from his dead wife is not how I imagined James intended to spend his Sunday afternoon. Silent Hill 2 follows the traumas of James Sunderland, who, like I've already explained, is led to Silent Hill with the premise of finding his wife, who has been dead for 3 years. Arriving to the town, you're immediately hit with the weird encounter meeting Angela, who came into town in search of her mother. She warns you that the town is dangerous, but James does not give a single flying fuck and wanders in anyway. While exploring an old apartment building, we stumble upon a dude with his intestinals sprawled out inside of a fridge, and a young man yakking his lunch in a nearby bathroom toilet. This dude's name is Eddie, and although you feel bad for him at first because he's bullied due to his weight, you lose all sympathy after finding out he kills a dog. Fuck this guy, we kill this guy. The third person we meet in this town while out in the search for Mary, my wife, is Maria, my wife's imposter. She appears in the She appears with the same face and voice as Mary, but not quite her, as her personality is spicier, and many believe she has something to do with being conjured by James in his mind to bring his wife back, but not quite his wife, a better, spicier version of her. To back this theory up, she is the only person who lived in Silent Hill, unlike the other people you meet who come from different places, and she's killed several times by either Pyramid Head or some other unknown causes. Pyramid Head, or Dorito Daddy, perhaps the most popular villain from the entire franchise, is James's desire to punish himself, I think. Most of the stuff that happens leaves a lot of room for interpretation. So a lot of the explanations I'm giving is just general consensus of what people think is going on. Anyway, we jumped way ahead here. Let's go back to the final individual we meet on our journey, a brat named Laura. Laura spends 90% of the fucking game running away from you, causing a ruckus. But when you finally get to talk to her, you find out that she met Mary while they were in the hospital together, and she's here in Silent Hill looking for her as well. When we finally get to the point in our journey where the big reveal happens, we find out that Mary died only a year ago, and it was James himself who killed her, not the disease that was mentioned several times throughout the game. He smuggled her with a pillow. Smuggled? He strangled her. That's not the word I'm looking for. Smothered! He smothered her. He smuggled her inside of a pillowcase and threw her. Okay. Anyway, even though Mary had asked him to kill her because she wanted the pain to stop, the guilt led him to Silent Hill to face his trauma, and you, yet again, see several endings. The good ending is Mary forgives you, you come to terms with your guilt, and leave Silent Hill with Lara. I'm assuming he adopts her or something, or just leaves her on the side of the road, who knows. Also, there's aliens. Moving on to The Room, a game whose story is actually pretty decent, but apparently the gameplay was such dog water. It's one of the most hated games in the series. Yahoo! The Room doesn't actually take place in Silent Hill, which was the first red flag. It takes place in a completely separate town within an apartment building in room 302. Henry Townsend, the most boring character in all of creation, is found stuck here in a room unable to leave except through a giant hole in his bathroom. It's just a hole in the wall. A glory hole in the wall. That's the only way that he's able to leave this apartment. The game turns into go through holes simulator. Each time you enter a hole, you're thrust into another place or dimension or reality. At some point, you do end up in Silent Hill, but only for a brief section of the game where there are mentions of characters from other games. But again, it's such a small reference that many were left wondering why this is considered part of the series in the first place instead of being a standalone title. My theory is that Silent Hill already existed, it was already popular, it's easier to sell a game that already has a fan base rather than sell a brand new IP. Anyway, there's a giant worm who is creating these interdimensional holes. That's why the holes exist. There is no further explanation to that. The real interesting part of the story comes in with a small boy who you encounter throughout the game who just happens to appear at the scene of gruesome killings. You meet several people that end up getting killed, and each time one is killed, they get numbers scraped onto their bodies. As it turns out, this small boy was born in room 302, abandoned there by his drug-addicted parents and sent to an institution within Silent Hill shortly after that was owned by the cult. There's the connection. The cult, the order, the bitches. At the institution, he must have been tortured or put through some trauma or something because he grows up to be a serial killer. A serial killer. Damn. He believed he was making sacrifices to resurrect some god again, and these sacrifices would lead him to his mother, room 302. No, not inside the room 302. He believed the mother was the actual room 302 because he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He had to kill 21 people for some reason, according to whatever crazy guy manual he was following, and that's why people kept dying throughout the game. They had their numbers scraped on their bodies because it was a countdown. Even though he's a grown-ass man, he appears as a little boy when you see him because he's a ghost. One of the people he sacrificed was himself. And you find this out because you eventually find his body within the room 302 just behind like a wall or something. It's actually pretty cool. There's a ton of supernatural creepy ghost stuff in the game that I think went underappreciated due to the rest of the game being complete garbage. But anyway, moving on. Silent Hill Downpour follows the story of Burfy Membleton. Yahoo! He's a criminal who's being transported to a high-security prison when his prison bus swerves and crashes on a road in Silent Hill. This whole swerving and crashing thing became a pattern. It's like they couldn't think of a better reason why anybody would stop in this godforsaken town. He meets several people throughout his adventure, an angry cop who is more worried about arresting him than figuring out why there's monsters everywhere, a funky DJ man, a creepy postman, and some others. As you play through the game, the mystery of why he was imprisoned also unfolds. Murphy gets himself into prison to take revenge on the man that killed his son. In order to be put into the same room as the guy who killed his son and slice him up into little pieces, Murphy makes a deal with a shady cop, which leads him to killing an innocent man himself. Kind of. Listen, there's a lot of stuff that changes. Events in the game help Murphy come to terms with the fact that his revenge is never going to bring his son back, but unfortunately for him, the cop that has been chasing him around the whole game isn't gonna let him off easy, since the man he killed due to the shady deal was his father. It's a whole twists and turns of messed up shit. At one point in the end of the game, you actually turn into the boogeyman himself and you chase this cop lady. It's really funny. Karma plays a big role throughout the game, and depending on your choices, you get different endings. But the gist of it is, if you're a good person, you make up with the cop lady and escape. But if you're not, you're stuck in the nightmare or get the death penalty. Homecoming. Coming home. The home of Yahoo! Homecoming begins with our protagonist, Alex Shepard, getting a ride into Shepard's Glen from a trucker guy. Travis, my boy! We learn that Alex is coming home after spending some time in a hospital. Much like the other games in the series, Alex is forced to confront his guilt, but what caused it remains a mystery until the big twist in the end. He comes home to his creepy mother, who says that his little brother Josh is missing, and so is his father, who went to go look for him. On his search for answers, he meets another woman, Elle, who is also looking for her little sister. I honestly don't know what happens to her little sister, I can't remember. Alex goes through your regularly scheduled exploration, monster fighting, blackouts, and teleportation between the Yucca world, Shepherd's Hill, and Silent Hill. He fights the human frickin' centipede, he sees Pyramid Head, and fights some other cool bosses here and there, and through his misadventures, he begins to discover the dark truth of what's been going on. Way back in the day, some families left Silent Hill and founded Shepherd's Glen. To avoid punishment for leaving the town and the Order, they made a deal with the gods to sacrifice a child from each of the families every 50 years. Alex was supposed to be the sacrifice from his family, but in a boating incident where he accidentally yeets his brother overboard and he drowns, his younger brother dies instead, and the sacrifice was never technically made, which is why the town has gone crazy. Marjorie, a member of one of the other families, is here to finish the job by killing Alex. She does not succeed. Many endings follow once again. One where he leaves with Elle after defeating the big demon man, one where he's sacrificed in the end, one where Alex becomes Pyramid Head himself, and of course you can't forget the alien ending. I've saved the worst for last. Yahoo! Silent Hill shattered memories, shattered my will to live in Minecraft. The devs basically took everything I've said and learned throughout this entire video and said, nah, that's not what happened. Shattered Memories is a reimagining of the first Silent Hill. It has a lot of the same characters as the first game, except this time they're different people. Some appear as both old and young versions of themselves. Everyone freezes over all the time. It's just so confusing. The gist of it is this. Harry Mason goes searching for his missing daughter, Cheryl, after a car accident. As he explores the eerie town of Silent Hill, he uncovers disturbing memories and truths about his life, encountering strange characters who are tied to his past. Unlike traditional Silent Hill games where you go fucking ham on everybody, there's no combat in this game. Harry can only run from the monsters during the nightmare times. The game's story and environments change based on the psychological tests that players take at various points, making it a highly personalized experience. The story reveals the big twist at the end. Harry died in a car crash years ago, and the events of the game are a manifestation of Cheryl's trauma and grief over his death. And of course, the endings will depend on whether or not she's able to accept and come to terms with her father's death. Also aliens. Aliens in every game. Except for The Room. I don't think there's an aliens ending in The Room. Listen, there's clearly plot holes all over the place. I butchered the fuck out of the lore and skimmed over a lot, but that's the point of these videos. Get the meat without the potatoes. Obviously, playing through the Silent Hill 2 remake sparked the idea for this video. If you're interested in an overview of how this game holds up in 2024, I would highly recommend clicking the video here on screen. But other than that, you guys don't forget to make your like sacrifices to the algorithm gods, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.